Hello, good afternoon and welcome from Digital Devon live from the International Riviera Centre Torquay. Or is it the Riviera International Centre Torquay? I always get them a bit mixed up. In fact, it's going to be a very interesting day today because of all the words that have ever been invented, the one that I have the most problems with is digital. My name's Paul Philpott. I'm the Vice Chair of the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce and one of the directors of the Devon Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to be your host today throughout a whole series of live streams as we broadcast live from the Riviera International Centre Torquay. I hope they're not going to keep walking across the cameras like that. It is going to be very, very live, isn't it? And we're going to be introducing you to a whole range of experts, dispelling some of the myths behind AI, how you can deploy AI within your business and organisation, how you can look forward to AI with regards to developing your life skills, and also what the future career path looks like in the new world that has AI all around us. Now, we've got two very good and very well-informed guests with us here to launch us today. And we've got Nigel, Fenn MB and Julie Hawker MBE. So let's get you to introduce yourselves first and foremost. So Julie, you're both MBEs actually. You wait for an MBE and then you get two people all at once, don't you? Julie, tell us what your background is and what you do, please.
So I'm Julie Hawker, I'm Chief Exec at Cosmic. We are a digital skills agency working all the way across the southwest, specialise in employability digital skills and workforce digital skills, and supporting small businesses across the region to help with their digital and of course AI. We also do a bit of tech and web as well. We're a social enterprise and we're always very keen to put that across.
And you'll start at 10:30, so please make your way over to the forum speaker area when you're ready. Thank you.
And that's the voice of God, otherwise known as Kelly Smith from the Devon Chamber of Commerce there, making a public service announcement. You obviously are showing off because you clearly don't have a problem with the word digital, which is very, very good. To your right, we have Nigel. Nigel, we've met many times. You've come on our live streams from the Devon Business Show. Tell us a bit of a recap about who you are and what you do, please.
Yeah, certainly, thank you. Yeah, my name's Nigel.
And come a bit closer to the microphone. Don't be scared of it. Grab that one and move it forward to you. There we go.
Hopefully you can all hear me. So my name's Nigel Fenn. I've got sort of two main hats that I wear. One of them is I'm a co-founder of a company called Neon Solution. And we're really pleased and delighted to be supporting the Chamber in terms of supporting the rollout of the local skills improvement plan over the next 3 years for Devon, which is amazing. And then the other role that I perform is I'm chair of the Southwest Apprenticeship Ambassador Network, so heavily focused on supporting apprenticeships and early careers all across the Southwest.
So we're going to talk about careers, the human side of AI, jobs and culture, what the future may or may not look like. No doubt we're going to place a few bets on what the future looks like, but with something that's changing so rapidly, who knows? We could be completely on the money, or we could be completely inventing things up. As AI becomes more and more part of the working landscape, I guess there are quite a few people, myself included actually, who are perhaps a little bit fearful about what the future holds because there's this massive question mark above it. So how do you think, and I'll ask Julie this first, how do you think roles will be changing with regards to the future, and what do you think the future employment landscape might develop into?
Well, I think there are some really strong indicators already all around us, especially in the business community at the moment, about the risks to jobs changing, and they're changing quite rapidly because all businesses now have their eye on what AI can do to save money. Mm-hmm. So what can it do to speed things up, deliver better customer service, but at its heart, what can it do to improve efficiency, save money? So, that is apparent to all of us. There are people who are obviously concerned about this, so let's check our acronyms, Paul. So if I was to say YOLO, what would that mean to you?
You only live once.
If I was to say FOMO, what does that mean to you?
Your fear of missing out.
Okay, let's introduce FOBO then. FOBO.
I can think of many things that the B might stand for, but...
let's play nicely and say it's fear of being obsolete.
Oh, yes.
So there's your acronym.
I've had that for 36 years.
There's an acronym for today, and it really sums up that there is a whole swathe of the workforce now, and those who aren't yet in a job, that are looking into that lens of what comes next and have a real anxiety about the skills they've honed over their career so far just not being needed anymore. And those are particularly task-oriented jobs, admin-focused jobs. And we've heard a lot this summer already about young people's employment. So entry-level roles are being massively impacted by AI, but also by wider cost issues. And there is also a major issue around women and their future employability, because if we talk about task-oriented roles and admin-level roles, a whole swathe, not exclusively by any means, but a whole swathe of those are occupied currently by women.
Nigel, let's bring you in here. Now, Julie mentioned about the fact that a lot of businesses and organisations are looking to AI with regards to cost saving, innovation and streamlining. Do you think this is a genuine upside about deploying AI, or is this a narrative that's been driven by those that are behind selling AI?
Yeah, it's probably some elements of both, really. I think we probably, in terms of your sort of previous question as well around, how much you need to sort of fear it or be aware of it, I think generally people should just be a bit more sort of reassured by, we've been here before on many occasions, whether we talk about industrialization, whether we talk about computers, and now we're talking about, whether it's the internet. We've heard the same stories about jobs and jobs will all be disappearing, and they will change, and I think we need to accept there will be change, and we need to reassure ourselves that as people we've dealt with all of these same sorts of issues in the past and we come out successfully. So I think yes, we need to be aware of them. Don't be overly concerned. It's not about fearing them, but it's just about being mindful that things will naturally change, and embrace it. And I think that's the thing. It's about sort of evolution. It's about progression, and what does that mean to you individually? So whether you're starting out in your career and you're about to sort of launch out into the workplace, or whether you've been doing a very sort of similar static type role for 10 or 20 years and you're worried about how that might change going forward, I think we should all be aware that society changes all the time. We've seen it through COVID, through things like online shopping, online banking, and we've all been fearful about the pace of some of those changes, but they happen and we all survive. So I think that's the reassuring thing we need to take.
You actually make a really good point, because if I go back over like my IT history, I have a really interesting, I like to know about old tech and stuff. You used to have typing pools.
Yes, yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of people behind the typewriter, and then when the word processor came along, it's, ooh, this is good. But that workforce kind of dynamically changed into new roles. Julie, you mentioned about young people. What in particular is challenging for young people? I guess it's going to be the unknown future, isn't it? It's moving so quickly.
Absolutely. I talk to friends, colleagues, family on a regular basis now who have school-age children. What should they study? What careers are they looking for down the line? And we don't know. Let's be clear, here and today, we can identify some of the trends, but jobs will shift quite dramatically. I think this change is going to be big. And I think we all need to, bolster up and support people. But the thing I keep saying to those friends, family and colleagues is focus on the things that AI won't be able to do. Focus on your skill, your humanity, your creativity. Those sorts of things will always in demand, and the jobs that are directly in digital or directly in admin-related tasks are the ones that are changing already. So watch the trajectory really closely.
Yeah. It's Nigel, I think you're a good person to perhaps pick this up with regards to the LSIP angle. How do you prepare a workforce for a future that we quite simply don't know what it looks like yet?
Yeah,
it seems impossible.
It does, but I think a lot of this is about some of the culture that you set, and I think it's about sort of reassuring people and actually developing resilience in people, and it's about sort of seeking out some of that creativity, because for many of the changes, it won't all be sort of almost the top down in the company. It won't be the the directors and the managers of the company that will be making or suggesting all the changes. Many of them will come from the employees themselves. They'll look at their own role and they'll see how they can use some of this sort of new technology, whether it's AI, and they'll say how they can sort of develop and enhance their role. So, in many ways it will be sort of individual employee led, and in other ways it will be sort of companies looking at this en masse. So we should expect all of those, and therefore I think it's about sort of developing a culture that kind of embraces it, that seeks out that innovation and ultimately builds resilience within the workforce, so individually people can cope with those changes.
Mm-hmm. Julie, the workforce of tomorrow, we've got two options, and we either upskill the workforce that we've got at the moment, I mean in terms of adapting the workforce of today rather, because the workforce of tomorrow, again, we don't really know what they're going to look like, but what are the approaches we can take, upskilling current teams, or hiring new talent, or a merger of both? How do you dynamically adjust your current workforce for the new climate?
I think the important thing is that everyone in our workforce today needs to have the support from their line manager and from their business to look at the reality of what's going to change in their role-specific, contextualised understanding and plotting a roadmap for how their role is going to change, and an honest discussion that allows them to say, well, if that's the case, then I need to learn X, Y, and Z. Or if that's the case, then I want to do something else. We need to get into a candid and honest level of conversation about the changes ahead. And like I say, and the point is really well made about a lot of what's going to change will come from employees. At the moment, let's be clear, a lot of business managers don't know what's going to happen to their businesses. So, employees are already finding workarounds. The typical example that I come up against is going into a business to have a look at their strategy, their plan for the future, and immediately finding out that all the workforce, a good percentage of the workforce, are doing workarounds. So even when there's a policy that says don't do this with AI, people are going off and doing it on their phones, yeah?
Yeah.
So, this is happening. There is an evolution, revolution type of approach to this. We need to be honest about and harness and give people the opportunity. That's that's the bottom line for me. There is a thing, I'm going to talk about it on the stage later on, which is about we need to help people to unlearn things in order to relearn things, but also to learn new skills. And that is a really sort of holistic process that we need to get into. And I'm betting Cosmic's future on the fact that digital skills are going to be needed for a long time yet. So, we just need to go with the agenda, not rage against it.
But you make a really valid point. We're all in the same boat. You're betting, your whole roadmap of Cosmic on what you believe is going to be the case. But you're going to have to be dynamic and change, aren't you?
Absolutely.
If it shifts.
Absolutely. And also listen really carefully to what people are asking for, what the evidence is showing us, and look for the opportunity. The best space for Cosmic is always what the national trends are showing us, what local businesses are telling us, what the educators are telling us, and finding our best position in supplying what's needed out there. We've always followed that path. We celebrate 30 years this year, so we've done it pretty well.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, Paul.
Nigel, Julie mentioned earlier about in organisations you might lay down some rules with regards to how you utilise AI, and then you've got colleagues who will find a way around it, do it on their phone. There's going to have to be a cultural shift within firms about the ethical deployment of AI, the ethical utilisation of AI, the better understanding of the rules and mindset, because you can't just upload data to any old AI model because you don't know the security level of it, whether it's sandbox, whether it's secure, whether you're inadvertently helping an AI model to learn from your IP. There are so many massive ramifications that people do not necessarily think about in the spur of the moment that when they open the app and they get it to do something. So how do you go about maintaining a company culture, yet integrating a new approach so that people understand the ethical and legally correct deployment of tech?
Yes. It's a great question, and it's one that companies will naturally be sort of grappling with, and it will evolve over time. But I think we've successfully navigated that path, and sometimes companies may have fallen foul of it in the past. Things like, data security is a really good example of that, and I think that's quite contained within your sort of question, that whole sort of data security and structure, and about how you move it around. So whether that's sort of asking questions, what data you sort of upload into an AI to get sort of some answers. So I think, you're right, we do need to sort of tread with caution and apply some set of parameters, some sets of rules, but those rules will flex over time and they will evolve over time. And I think it's that navigating that pathway in sort of assessing each company's individual appetite to risk. Depends on sort of how constrained they will be, what the actual data is, and it's about sort of, making sure that we sort of avoid release of personal information and all of those sorts of things. So I think it's going to be individual companies kind of making that sort of that journey and really putting their own rules around it, which will flex over time, but in a sort of managed way that they are comfortable with. But I think with all of these sort of previous examples about sort of how companies have evolved and dealt with them, it's the pace of change of AI that seems to be moving, very rapidly. So when we look at things like skills, trying to incorporate that into sort of training courses, so I don't know, an apprenticeship standard, for instance, that might take 3 years to deliver. By the time you sort of write the standard and then sort of roll it out and then deliver it, many of the things you're teaching on year 1, by the time you get to year 2 or 3, might be out of date. So, it is challenging whether you're a deliverer of those skills or whether you're a company trying to kind of embrace it and sort of evolve with it. It is going to be challenging. In particular, it's around that sort of pace of change.
Julie, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, I would echo a lot of what has been said already, but I also think there is this thing about, and I said it before, I'll repeat it please, which is listen to people, ask people what are their fears, yes, but also what are their ambitions, where do they see this agenda for them individually, because then you get a richer picture of, how to address both confidence, motivation and skills. You can't do just the skills piece. And some people, unlike we've got in the main, I know there is, again, this is not everyone, but in the main, young people have an idea about their ambition and their pathway into work and what they're looking for. In the workforce more generally, older individuals in the workforce, they may have lost a lot of that. They will think that they are this skilled and it's not changing until they're ready to retire. Well, we've got to show them that that's not the way of the future, and we've got to support. Like you say, it's about confidence, about motivation, and then it's about skills. So
there are going to be people out there, though, that are panicking.
Yeah.
And there's 2 ways in which you can panic. You can panic because you the fear of being obsolete, as you said. There's like this invisible clock ticking if you're in that position. You don't know how much longer you've got to go. But there are also those that panic to deploy, panic to learn, and think, right, all of a sudden everybody else is using ChatGPT and other LLMs are available to do things, and then you just jump on it without actually thinking about how do we work when you've got so many people just with so many question marks and so many feelings of insecurity in a way.
Yeah, and let's be clear, it is great when people want to experiment with these tools because experimentation is learning. But what we need to do is a wrap around them, data security, understanding how to use these tools safely, and in their own personal space, make sure that they are protecting their personal data really strongly, because those skills will then transfer into the workplace. So, we don't want to put people off these tools. We want to embrace the fact that they want to experiment, but we want to train them how to do so safely. And then we want to say, this tool won't be used in the workplace for X, Y, and Z, And for a lot of people that means moving into Copilot, other LLMs are available, or Gemini in a Google Workplace. So, making sure they understand the skills they're learning over here on their smartphone using a ChatGPT example is equally advantageous and valuable in the work system, and not discrediting what they're trying to do over there. Again, it's about motivation and engagement.
Question to you both then. This has to come from the top down in large organisations, and most certainly within the Devon Chamber of Commerce, we engage with businesses of all sizes, probably most of them are SMEs and micro businesses. But there's a considerable amount of fear within the big businesses because they're seeing rapid changes in how many people are employed, how they're being deployed. So this has to be a leadership mindset shift, doesn't it? The right signals have to come from the top layer, echoing down with regards to security, how you're going to relearn, job security as well. Who wants to go first with regards to how they think the current management levels within organisations are dealing with it? Because we've had some real humdingers of examples.
Yeah. Shall I make a start? So, entirely agree with the points within your question. I think one of the things we need to bear in mind within Devon, we've got a much larger percentage of people that are employed within smaller organisations than when you look across the rest of the country. And I think that's a competitive advantage we've got because smaller businesses can be more agile, they can move more quick, that ability to respond to different scenarios, and that linkage between those owners, those directors of a company and the employees. And once you've got fewer levels of within the hierarchy being a smaller business, they can make more agile decision making. So I do think from a Devon perspective, that means that we are better placed to respond to some of the challenges around AI in a quicker fashion. And some of the things around the fact that it may mean that geography isn't so important, so it's not about being close to certain cities or to capitals, things like that. And I think because of Devon being placed where it is, we've got a great opportunity to kind of to capitalise on this opportunity going forward.
Julie, would you like to add anything?
Just from the perspective of management and leadership skills around, digital AI, the transformation that's already with us, but is as we've discussed, of a pace that a lot of people are struggling with. And I think my challenge to every manager and leader out there is: do you know enough? Are you looking after your own skills enough to advise and manage and lead the business you're in? And the answer in a lot of cases might be, not sure. And if people, honestly feel that, then go out there and find the support you need to learn what you need to know.
I honestly think, Julie, all these podcasts, of which we've got 5 live podcasts and interviews to do today, I've got a feeling there are going to be more questions raised throughout all of these than we have answers.
Yeah, but that's healthy, isn't it? Because at least we're here, at Digital Devon, all together, posing the questions. And I think that's really healthy. I think that's a job we should embrace today, is ask questions of people. Because I don't think anyone really knows all the answers on this topic.
Well, you can't, because it's
evolving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you and pose some questions about what you're going to be doing in the talks arena in a few moments. But before we do that, Nigel, with regards to the event here, how do you think it's kicking off, and how important is it to actually hold events like this? This is the first one. I think it's going to be the first of many.
I'm sure it is, and I think just to follow on from that sort of previous point about asking questions, I think that is exactly what this sort of event is around. It's about bringing people together, taking reassurance, rather than being sat in your business thinking you're alone worrying about these sort of questions that you might have. It's about coming along to these events, talking to some of the experts who can help you navigate that. And it's also about taking reassurance that others have the same questions. So it's not just you. And like you say, I think collectively we'll keep these conversations going. We'll have future events going forward, and we'll continue to evolve and work together to answer as many of those questions as we can going forward. But as we answer more questions, then it will pose more questions going forward. So again, just be resilient and reassure yourself that is just natural progression.
So, Julie, you're going to be going through to the speakers hall in a few moments and taking the stage with all your fans in front of you.
Maybe one or two.
One or two, yeah.
Everyone else will be at lunch.
Yeah, I slip everyone else a fiver if I do anything like that, just to try and get somebody to come in. You obviously, for the benefit of those who are watching live online now, could you give us a little bit of an overview about what you're going to talk about? Because they're there, we're here.
Okay, fair enough. So my piece is all about the human elements of what we're debating today. The technology is super clever, it's advancing at pace, but I've always had a passion. You know, my work at Cosmic as a social enterprise, I've always centred on what is this doing for people. I am, keen on technology. I keep up to date with it, and I employ technologists, But at the heart of all of this are people, real people who have real lives. And I also want to put across this thing about the local business community and how much talent and service exists here in Devon that we really need to be making the most of. So I'm going to talk a bit about national evidence around digital skills, especially something called the Essential Digital Skills Framework that I've been helping an organisation called Future.now to campaign on and land well, including in LSIP documents. And I'm going to give 2 examples of our work at Cosmic. One is about how we've brought people from unemployment into jobs twice as quickly as the conventional employment routes. So I'll talk a bit about that, a piece of evidence we just published. The other example I'm going to bring is Solcombe Gin, who came with us, of
You've
course.
brought any samples?
Yeah. I wish. And they've been on one of our AI boot camps, another really successful program that we're in the middle of delivering. So I'm going to talk about how that, from their perspective, how that skills uplift changed their business.
Excellent. Final thoughts to you both, Nigel?
Yeah, I just think in many cases when we talk about the sort of the evolution of skills and the evolution of the workplace, I think it really is about sort of investing in some younger people. So if you're concerned about sort of making that investment, embrace it and see that as being part of the solution to go out and recruit a new apprentice, a new graduate. Seek that opportunity to really kind of help you navigate those future problems, because bringing in that fresh thinking, those new ideas will help you on that journey.
Julie?
I think the closing message is the one that I've been echoing throughout this, which is, get in touch with your people, understand where they are with this agenda, talk openly, honestly. I think one of my fears, and I articulated it this way over a pint of Guinness at the rugby on Saturday, is my fear is we're sleepwalking.
Seeing a theme here.
Yeah. Exeter Chiefs did well, didn't they? My fear here is that businesses, managers, leaders, but businesses, the whole entity, we're sleepwalking into this. We're not awake enough in this moment in time when we still have an opportunity to make a difference to the people and their future jobs and what comes next.
Brilliant. Julie, Nigel, thank you very much for joining us here at the Riviera International Centre in Torquay. I'm sure I'll get it right at one point. Still to come with the live streams from Digital Devon Live, we'll be looking at from hype to ROI, making digital investment pay off, cybersecurity, protecting your business in a digital world, what's next, the future of digital and AI in the Southwest, and then of course at around about 3:15 we'll be doing a reflection on the event. My name is Paul. Thank you for joining me for the first of a series of live podcasts here from Digital Devon Live.